Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. And I have never competed at a world championship.
Polina Edmunds, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Where did you compete at Worlds in 2015? Where was that Worlds? You competed at Japan in 2014 Worlds, right?
Yeah, 2014, I was in Saitama, which is where everyone just competed. 2015 Worlds was in Shanghai.
Okay. Right. So you have really become the queen of correct edges for figure skating, and you just call it as you see it. So what did you make of the level of skating, as a big picture here at the World Championships? What did you think?
I thought the competition itself for the women was a really great event. I thought like everybody was really fighting in both programs, especially the free skate. Top five, nobody was perfect. Everybody had mistakes. So in terms of that, like the strength of the event, it wasn't lights out. But definitely disappointing to see top five have edge problems with their jumps. On their takeoffs, specifically the Lutzes. So that's definitely something I want to see improvement on. But overall, I thought it was a great event.
Yeah, I did think of you because there was one point where Belinda, the commentator, was reviewing Jason Brown's combination. And she's like, this is a spectacular triple flip, triple toe combination. And it was supposed to be a triple Lutz, triple toe. And I...
but in all seriousness, Paulina, like, how hard is that for someone to change once they're sort of at this level and they have their sort of routine with everything? How hard is that to really address? I mean, we've been told in the past, often as like a skater is coming up, they really thrive at either the inside or outside edge, and then it's like a nightmare from then on to try to get the other one.
I think like by the time you're at triples, it is incredibly difficult to change the edge. It's not impossible though, and we have seen skaters do it. One of the actual the best changes I've ever seen is Courtney Hicks. If you ever go back and watch like her as a junior, like she had the biggest flutz and then she completely corrected the edge like night and day. So it is possible, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the pattern specifically. So the problem that we're seeing right now, especially in the last 10 years of skating, is that a lot of Lutzes are on flat straight line patterns, kind of like flips. And traditionally the Lutz is on the Lutz corner. So you kind of like guide that edge, and the technique of tapping, you want it to be more diagonal. You're tapping to the left of yourself rather than just tapping down on the right side of yourself like a flip. And so I think that line has really gotten blurred in the past few years. And that's why we're seeing so many athletes with the wrong edge Lutz. So I think there just needs to be a much clearer divide, and they have to do a lot of little exercises to help get that edge working. Yeah.
Well, what did you think of Kaori Sakamoto? She really had all of the pressure on her this season, and we've seen her, she had a rough start to the season and really came through towards the end. What did you make of her performances?
She definitely competed better here than we've seen for the season, which is awesome to have her skate her kind of strongest skates here. I thought the short program looked great. Like she was really, really electric, and the triple was amazing. The opening double axel was amazing. Lutz did have a wrong edge, so I do have a little bit of discrepancy with the score there. But the free skate, I was disappointed to see, the mistake with the pop. That's a huge mistake, and she was still getting scored +2s, +1s for that. So you could kind of see the manipulation in the scoring there, the home favorite. And she did also have a few carrots that they didn't call. The opening Lutz, I believe, the triple sow cow in the beginning, and the double axel triple toe, double toe. The toe was also under and they didn't call it. So I think she was definitely helped in the scoring to secure the win. I honestly would have had Haein first. So yeah, I didn't really agree with the placement, but I did think that she skated better than she has all season. So
yeah, because although Haein won the free skate, right? But their scores were still oddly similar. Yeah, they were pretty darn close. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we know you like a woman skating and you are, you like to see that. What did you think of her transformation this season? She really worked with different choreographers, working with Roheen and Marie France. Did you like her new style? What did you think?
I actually have been enjoying it. I think there's a lot of dance quality in both programs that is different than what we saw of her last year. She is a very athletic style skater. So it really comes down to preference when everybody skates well, like whose style you prefer. But I think that she does a great job of blending like her soft dance ability. I think like she has a lot of sensuality she brings to her skating, which is pretty unique for like a really athletic style skater. So I personally liked it a lot. I think she like really fills her program with detail.
So if you were on Kaori's team moving forward for next season, would you use the same combination of choreographers? Would you try to branch out and do something different? What would you personally advise?
That's a good question. I mean, I like the idea more, especially now that I'm older, of mixing it up and trying new choreographers and like just people to work with, because I feel like there's a lot of different details you get from different people. So if I were her, I would switch it up just for her own like artistic growth. But I did think that the programs this season were good. So if she wanted to continue down that line of style, then I would definitely just stay.
And I was intrigued, you mentioned that there was a great deal of fight from especially the final flight of ladies here. And I did think it was interesting that after she popped the flip, she was still able to tack on that triple toe, which I really think saved her in the end. Has that ever happened to you? How hard is that? I mean, that reminded me of those old combinations from like the 80s, where they would start with like a double loop into a triple toe or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely think that her tacking on the toe was huge for her score, but also it showed the grit that she had, where she was definitely shocked that she had just popped that and she wasn't about to let the entire combo go. So that quick thinking is definitely like a good champion mindset to have, because most people kind of just fall apart after they make that big of a mistake.
Okay.
Where do you really see her room to grow for next season? Should she do another season? We've seen her do kind of the same technical arsenal. She did improve her style. I thought her spins were kind of weak throughout this season. Where do you see her really putting her attention for next season?
I think that if she continues to come out and just skate clean programs, she is a force to be reckoned with, and like she'll land on every podium, if not be first. Whether or not like being first against other clean programs like will still land her there, we'll see. But I don't think she necessarily needs to like up any technical content. She opens with like the huge double axel, and it's just the biggest and best quality jump every time. So I think that if she just skates clean, like this season, she has not been skating clean programs, and that's been holding her back. She's fine. So I don't think that there's anything that she needs to necessarily change other than fixing the let's edge.
What do you think of her sow and her loop this year? They both became struggles for her around the university games. We saw her miss them a couple of times. She was doing triple loop in practice here. What do you think kind of happened on those jumps for her?
I think for her, for sow cow and loop specifically, it's just a focus thing. Because as we can see, she has the jump. She's done them a million times in competition. She's nailing triple loops in the warm up. But if she's letting them go in the actual program, it's just a lack of focus. It's like the mishap mentally of not being in that grit, like fight mentality. And you need to have that in order to skate a clean program. So I don't think that that's technique or anything she needs to work on to help it. I think it's just mental.
So for Haein Lee, she has had a bit of a quiet rise through the second half of the season. Obviously, she did really well at Four Continents, but there was so much going on there that it got kind of lost. What'd you like about her skating?
Her programs this season have really grown on me, honestly. I saw her for the first time at Skate America this season, and I thought she looked lovely, but she had mistakes and it wasn't super standout for me. But Four Continents, I think she looked really good. With the altitude, I don't think that the performance quality was the same as what I saw at Worlds. And so I was really happy to see everything just looked really finished in Saitama. I thought she looks so willowy. Like she has really long lines and she took her time on everything. Her skating is just so calm and so elegant. And I thought the quality of her execution on all of her elements were also really top notch. So I really liked her at this competition, and I am so happy that she earned a medal and got on the podium. And I think she really could have won if the scoring was a little bit more honest.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where if I, again, we were talking about this in the men's event, if I had seen the country flags in the placements they ended and I saw a Korean flag in the second position, I for sure going in would have thought it was going to have been Yelim.
Yeah.
So I always liked Haein Lee as a junior, but she struggled to sort of find her footing in the senior ranks. So this was sort of that feel-good surprise moment for me at these championships. I was going to ask you two technical things about her skating. She's another one. It looked sometimes to my untrained eye that she had a bit of the chicken wing arm position also at times in the jumps. I don't know how else to describe that. And then occasionally like a really wide swinging free leg. I didn't know if that was something you might have noticed or what we think might be happening there that causes that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that technique is mostly just like a lack of tightness. So she's like not snapping as perfectly tight as she should be, which like causes that kind of open position. But if she's landing all the way around, then she's fine. She did receive not a cue, like an under, a carrot on her triple toe in the free skate. So she definitely does need to like keep that tightness and get all the way around if she doesn't want to get harped by the judges. And I think, like, as you said, since she wasn't the Korean that everyone thought would be in the mix for the podium, like she was a skater that had to skate clean in both programs to be where she was. And so with that in mind, I think like the pressure on herself was probably pretty high to be able to get there, especially after being 4 continents champion and kind of like securing that status going into Worlds. So yeah, I actually really liked her technique overall though, because the takeoffs are very calm. She has really great posture. Like she takes her time, like she has the really long taps on the flip and lets. You know, nothing is like not jumping up. She has great step up and height, so lots of flow. So I thought overall it looked really good. I do think her Lutz edge does go a little bit flat though sometimes, especially at the end of her program in the free skate. When she's more tired, you can see it's not a super clear outside edge, so she definitely needs to watch that. But correcting that for her is going to be a lot easier than some of the other girls who have a very blatant inside edge.
Okay, because her first Lutz in the free skate was like the biggest of the event. It felt like it was so impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. Okay. Yeah.
She did land a triple axel last summer, at least that one time on Instagram that everybody saw. So that was, you know, something that she talked about adding. I thought it was interesting that she uses Gracie Gold's Phantom of the Opera edit, or almost exactly the same from 2015. I thought it sounded dated and a little grandma-ish then. You know, what kind of style would you like to see from her now that she is a top, you know, lady competing for a gold medal?
I think lyrical works really well for her. I think musical, like along the lines of Phantom of the Opera, so something like Les Mis or like any of those type of big lyrical but like strong and powerful music, I think will work for her because she is so willowy, but at the same time she has a lot of speed and power. She covers ice really well in both programs. So I definitely think keeping in that style is important for her just because it's where she looks most elegant. And that's kind of like her biggest strength. So I think like keeping on that line would be really good. And it's funny that you mentioned the Phantom of the Opera because I know that like her and Yelim and a lot of the other like current top Korean skaters and juniors were all at 4 continents in 2015 in Seoul. A lot of them were like flower girls and like they were all there and they remember those like so clearly. And so I'm sure that there has been like inspiration drawn from past performances like Gracie's to pick that music.
I would like them to move out of the Unibox or feel comfortable to do that. Like, I think that we've honored Una a lot, right? And I think that they all have unique things to say. So I don't think it's a bet, but I remember Haein Lee had that great fire dance program as a junior. Like, I think that she's capable of a lot. So I'm interested to see what she does going forward. What did you think about Isabeau at this competition? So at 4 continents, she didn't skate the free. You know, she's had a lot of struggles this year. She's had struggles in practice. I know that in Colorado, they had seen her like laying on the ice during practice. It just seems like a lot of pressure. What did you think of here? She seemed really hard on herself after, not winning that bronze medal.
I think this has been a really crazy, like expectation filled, pressure filled season for her, especially after like the early success with medaling on the Grand Prix. And then she like snuck on to the podium at the Grand Prix final. And it's amazing that she like had those moments like carrying her through. But I'm sure she just was under a lot of pressure at the final 3 competitions, nationals for continents and worlds. And at the end of the day, you just got to deliver in order to make a podium, to make a medal. So for worlds, with her missing that combo in the free skate, that really just did her over. And it's unfortunate, but I think it's a really good learning kind of opportunity for her because she is really young. It's her first year senior. And she has also made mistakes earlier this season. So it's not like she's been perfect. And then here it was like the first time she made a mistake. So now she knows like she needs to come and skate clean. But overall, I thought her performances were really good other than that opening mistake. She's so beautiful to watch, like very, very lyrical, very balletic. Her lines are beautiful. Like the only issue that I have with her is the jump technique. Like those takeoffs like really cut her lines when the rest of the program, the lines are so beautiful. But she has like a really quick snap and she has like a lot of height on her jumps and her spins are gorgeous. So she has so much potential. And I think this could be only the start if she can continue to skate well and kind of like withstand puberty and all that such at this age.
Do you think it's possible for her to fix that technique? I mean, you talked on your show about how she, almost goes her
she's
chest
bent
goes,
over for like the Lutz. I mean, she's full blown bent at the waist almost.
does that lead to like a hip and back injury when you get up in the air like that?
I mean, it's hard to say right now because she hasn't grown into her adult body yet. So we don't know how it's going to affect her muscles and how it's going to affect her jumps overall. So time will tell on that front. But even without, all of that in the future, like right now, the quality, because of those takeoffs not being aesthetic, the jumps just don't have the highest quality, especially compared to the rest of the field with girls that have, great posture, no upper body movement going in. They're really jumping from their legs. She is leaning forward completely at a 90-degree, and her free leg swings up to a 90-degree angle as well. So she's completely parallel like this before she taps.
Doing a camel spin to take off for the Lutz. It's remarkable she's able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really just it cuts the speed. So she doesn't have a lot of speed, which cuts the height and the flow of her jump. Like maybe watching by herself, like it looks okay, but then when you watch it compared to the other girls or like on the 6-minute warm up with these other skaters, it is a lot more obvious. So just the quality in that respect is not quite there for me, but the fact that she's able to still like rotate completely straight up in the air every time and get like that quick snap and find her center says a lot about her ability and her talent. So it is just really unfortunate that like the technique that she's been taught, like she learned, is this wonky.
Are you okay with her speed? Because that's also been an area of debate. I mean, she has great steps. Do you think she has enough speed for a woman of her stature?
I think she's developed her power, her speed more so this season. Power will come as she gets older. She's really young and really light. So as long as she is keeping up speed-wise, like she'll grow into the power. I think at the beginning of the season, I kind of felt like the ice coverage wasn't quite there. I think she's improved on it. And I think in terms of like her overall patterns, the short program, the patterns like built in the program for the choreography, like they don't really fill up the ice enough for me, especially watching live. I think the free skate does a much better job of that. But for me, the most obvious thing is she loses a lot of speed, specifically on the jumps, like into the takeoffs. She's completely slowing down a lot. And that also like really hurts just the overall flow and quality of her jumps.
Yeah, I think for the packaging too, like I want to see more of Isabeau. The Free felt like a Russian grandmother, kind of like designed her dress, put the music all together. Like it just felt heavy for someone so young and so light and effervescent, I thought.
Well, and in a world where now I find the warhorse pieces, classical pieces, are almost never used, even though, you know, Johnny and Tara always like to say, isn't it crazy? They're doing modern music, or they're not doing I was like, no one is doing classical music anymore. And I think Isabeau thrives the most in those classical warhorse balletic pieces. So I'm hoping also for her material wise next year, she goes with some sort of big balletic, like own what you do more than the other people. I'm just jonesing for a nice classical piece in the ladies event again. Yeah,
I think like her Swan Lake program from last season, and she's using it as a show program. It is just the most like stunning program. So she definitely has a lot of room for more specifically balletic pieces. I think this year was like more balletic influenced of different styles because it was a waltz and the tango. But I think right now, especially because she's young in these programs, they feel a little bit rigid to me. She does have the training and you can see it, but there isn't a lot of freedom of movement. So that's kind of what's missing right now, is that she hits these positions, but they're kind of like the same 4 or 5 positions, and she like stays in them rather than having like more fluidity in her movement. And her back specifically, like it gets a little bit stiff in this position. She needs a little bit more of a back arch. But I also think that that has to do with her being young and just kind of like doing what she's told right now. And as she grows and as she gets older, she's going to artistically develop more to like have that freedom of movement and like have that emotion play out more. And that really does just come with age. So I think we'll see if it can develop into that way, or if she kind of stays more like classic rigid.
How do you think about Loena this season? She's been such a fan favorite. They've changed her free skate throughout the season. They've changed the music. They've changed the choreography. Do you think her technique, I really worry about her under rotations a lot of times, and we've seen some inconsistency from her throughout the season. What do you make of skaters doing the double arm to get the rotation? Like, are you a fan of it, not a fan of it? You know, kind of what's your take?
I am not the biggest fan of the hands overhead. I like it if you do it like once or twice in the program and it is just like amazing pencil position. But I think doing it for every single jump takes away from that like special quality. And I know from skaters who do it, who have said that it just becomes so routine to them that they feel more comfortable rotating that way rather than bringing their hands in. But I don't think like necessarily having your hands up affect the qualities more. Say I think for her, like with under rotations or things going wrong, it's more of a mental lapse, because like as we saw in the short program, like she did a stunning triple flip and then a gorgeous double axel, and then she just completely missed her combo. And I would say that's much more of a mental like lack of focus and concentration from her. But the under rotations were pretty stark in that program. I thought the short was amazing. Like she had so much energy. She started off with such great quality, and then the Lutz was like under at a quarter, and the toe was actually at a half turn, and they didn't call her on that. They just gave her a quarter for the toe. But it was a huge mistake, and they really held her up with the points, because 71 for that lack of quality in the combo is just like way too high, in my opinion, for the technical content. And then in the free skate, she came fighting for it. But she did still kind of have a mistake with the Lutz fall and some unders and stuff. So I didn't really feel like her performance at this Worlds was specifically in the free skate her best at all in terms of the like artistic skill that she has. I think the short program demonstrated that more, but in the free skate she was just so focused and concentrated on the elements at hand, and even those like weren't perfect. So it just overall like felt just not enough. And so like seeing her land on the podium was like it made sense because she was a favorite going in, but I didn't think that the performance was really like a great skate from her overall.
So would you have had Isabeau in third then?
Maybe but I can't really feel like any of them are like should be on the podium based off of the edges, because Loena also has an edge problem on the lutz, and Isabeau has edge problems on her lutz as well as her flip. Her flip has a flat edge too. So I think like that's just a really big no for me of like anybody being on a podium. So it's kind of hard because there were just a lot of technical mistakes.
Yeah, I always feel like her ability and her crowd appeal is better than her choreography or her music edits. I remember like she and Mariah Bell did Celine Dion programs in the same time, and I think she changed cuts of music like 7-8 times in that short program. It was just not refined as well as it could have been for that level of competition. So,
and something about the style of these two programs didn't seem authentic to her as maybe as much as they were to her team. Like it seemed like they were trying to almost brand her as a type of skater that I wasn't necessarily buying with this material, because I find she does have this lovely womanly quality on the ice, and she knows how to perform and she knows how to connect with an audience, to me, in spite of these programs, not because of them. You know?
Exactly. I think she's capable of like having a much more sophisticated and like gorgeous look on the ice. And I don't think that either of the programs really suited her in that way and like brought out that strength in her. And I don't know if it was because there was just too much going on in both programs, or like the music choice didn't fit like these artistic moments that she could have where she's like a little bit more calm and she uses just the way that she stands, and like less is more, I think, especially for Loena. So I hope that she can kind of go into a more classic way next season to demonstrate that. Yeah.
I think she could use a different choreographer and music, advice, I think, for next season would help her. Well, what do you think about Mai Mihara? I think many people expected her to medal here. She had a very consistent season. She struggles with getting the jumps around. It's kind of reminiscent of Satoko Miyahara. What did you think of her performance here?
I thought that her skating, I always think this of her, I think her skating is really lovely. I don't think that her programs ever really stand out to me personally. They're always just kind of like blending in with the rest of the competition. But that being said, the short program looked great from like the initial view, but when I looked back at the rotations, she definitely had some unders as well. And her combo, her triple toe, was looking more like a half turn rather than a quarter turn short. So seeing her in third after with that quality of performance was a little disappointing, but she is a Japanese skater, World Star in Japan, so it made sense in that regard. But in the free skate with the mistakes at the end, like that was kind of where she really lost the opportunity, and I agreed that she should drop in placement. And yeah, she just really needed to skate 2 clean programs here for Japan to be able to keep her high, and she didn't. So it was just kind of a lack of delivery there for Mai.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Sorry,
Jonathan.
Well, you brought up an interesting point on your podcast after 4 continents, and we were talking about levels and IJS and all the things that are required. And Dave and I were having a similar conversation where the men at this World Championship somehow seemed to transcend those problems with the system. And each one sort of had an individual program, sort of brought their own unique personality to the ice, where sometimes I felt as a viewer, especially this season, so many of the women's programs have become formulaic. And it's almost hard to differentiate between so many of them, Mai being one of them, but I think it's sort of like a kind of epidemic that's happening in the women's field at the moment. And what's the way out of that? Because I don't know how the men were able to deliver such variety in their programs. And then going over to the women's event, it was so much the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Is everyone, it's the levels? I mean, that's sort of one of the things we've discussed, is because everyone knows certain bullet points get you certain things. So every spin is a copy of the same, and everyone seems to emulate something that has won instead of try to create their own thing. Sometimes if I'm being totally honest, it's made the women's events this season a little less enticing for me.
It's a really hard line to draw too, because in one way you want skaters to kind of experiment and try new styles and show, like, find what makes them special on the ice. But then sometimes when skaters do and the programs don't quite work, then we're all like, go back to what you're good at, like just start doing these again. So it is really challenging. But I do think that the technical structure of skating, like I said in my podcast, with the levels and needing to get all of these tiny points, and the jumps, especially I think for women, there's definitely a bit more of a double standard from the men with the quads. Obviously, we're not seeing a lot of quads or triple axels this season, with the Russian skaters being gone. We're still seeing some triple axels, but there's more leeway for the women to have like longer setups on their jumps and like take more time doing plain choreography into jump passes rather than doing something unique. And that's kind of where the men don't do that. They have way more intricate character stuff still going into those jumps. So I think that's also a big component of why everything is looking the same for women. You're seeing a lot of focus on the technical and laps in the choreography before technical elements. And so if we can kind of bring back more balance into making the program a story as a whole and having skaters like pick music and characters and costuming that match like the overall picture of a program rather than just having it as the background for all of their elements set up, then we're going to kind of see more individual performances again.
Well, what'd you make of Bradie and Amber? Because they both didn't have their best performances here. Now, there was a lot of talk after nationals about the judging of nationals, and I was wondering from your perspective, do skaters feel that going into the World Championships, where if nationals is controversial, do you feel less confident going in if you don't know if your calls were real calls? I mean, how does that kind of set you up for success or failure?
Well, I think there's no surprise or like there's no secret that at every nationals, in every country, you get cushion in the points. So that's how it is. I think for some skaters though, more than others, like that can create a kind of false sense of success and like readiness quality. And so I think for Amber, she has been skating pretty well all season. There's been some little mistakes here and there, but she's been keeping it together for the most part. And that's pretty big for her. I thought actually this Worlds was pretty good for her, especially in the free skate. The short program was really disappointing to have her put her hand down on that loop again. It's a mistake she's been making all season. And she does have a really unique look on the ice. She's like very powerful, very strong, very fast, and she has great technique and she has like great movement. She's also a more athletic style skater. So it comes down to preference when everybody skates clean. But she has like so much potential, I think, to score higher if she can skate clean, and she just isn't. So she's letting those points go. But in the free skate, other than the triple axel, which she's also been missing all season, she landed everything. It wasn't perfect quality. Like there was a little bit like almost of a step out on a loop, I think. And it wasn't like there was like perfect flow out of every jump, but she was like showing that really good mental strength, that grit, which is huge for her. And I think she was really underscored, honestly, with the content that she put down, because a lot of the skaters, you know, even in the top, but everybody in front of her for the most part also made mistakes, if not made more mistakes technically. And they were scoring like 10 points higher than her. And I don't think that she necessarily needed to be like, you know, in the top 5 or anything with the mistakes that she made, but she should have been a good 10 points, 15 points higher. And it does make a difference because of the spots. So like we lost our 3 spots for next year because the placement didn't add up to 13. And I think Amber totally could have been higher. And I don't know how much higher she needed to be in order to like make that placement, obviously do the math and everything, but they really dropped her and they dropped the US for doing that. Because Bradie, we all knew could have been dropped because of the under rotations all season at nationals in 4 continents. She undered everything again here at Worlds, as well as made other mistakes. She's just not ready. She's in her comeback season. But for Amber, we have much more of an opportunity, and it was definitely a shame to me to see other skaters with much bigger mistakes score way, way more points than her and have her placement be so low for our slots.
Mm.
I think with Bradie, she's really had the unders for a couple of seasons and people don't. Obviously, it's gotten worse after her injury, but especially the combo, even in 2021 when she won nationals, it was quite like under and then a complete downgrade. It should have been on the triple toe. But yeah, it is strange. I do think that we knew that she could have been down. For Amber, I wonder, you talk about how she made that loop mistake throughout the season. Like, I wonder if the judges just have her in a different category. It does seem like they still kind of group where they expect skaters to be, and that definitely hurt her here. I thought Maddie's season was a good decision switching her free skate back, but I thought that it was probably too late in the season at this point. She did do a good free, but not a good short. So.
Yeah, I thought her free skate was great. Her Lutz toe was like beautiful. It was all the way around. And it just overall, like watching her struggle with the free skate all season and kind of go into this like pop mentality and having her like pull in on everything and land everything pretty well. I was really happy with that free skate. I also thought that free skate could have scored higher, and they like, you know, skated earlier in the event, so their points were lower, which is a shame because then you see like skaters in the later groups skate with way many more mistakes and still score so much higher. So I think her short program though, she needed to skate clean. So she really messed her chances up with that. But yeah, overall, like a skater that I really enjoyed watching was Kimmy Rippon. Love Kimmy Rippon. I'm a Kimmy stan. She skated 2 clean programs here. She has really great qualities. She's the same age as Isabeau. And so it's interesting to me to see the discrepancy in the judging of like, we're pulling one 16-year-old so high, but we're like kind of dragging this other 16-year-old who is European bronze medalist. So she has a lot of great quality too. And she skated really well. And I just really like the skating style and the technique that she has. She's like very, very pencil straight, so quick. And like everything is like very classic technique. So I'm a huge fan of seeing that. And I also really like Chae-yeon Kim, who ended up in 6th.
What a moment that was for her in the free skate. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. She skated amazing free skate. I thought it should have scored a lot higher as well, based off of the quality of her jumps, the proper edges, just everything was fantastic. So the short program kind of like put her down before that, but yeah, I was really happy to see her land in the top 6, and I think she could have finished higher, in fact.
The one that sort of surprised me here, speaking of European medalists, was Gubanova, who I wondered after sort of that momentum from Europeans where this might put her mentally for Worlds. And almost watching her free skate, it looked like she just wanted to stop and lay down and take a nap, like almost throughout the entire free skate. I couldn't quite tell what was going on there. I was taken aback. I thought she was really maybe going to feel, based on nothing, I thought she was going to feel very empowered by Europeans and maybe really make a big push here. Tough to see her sort of wilt under that pressure.
Yeah, it was definitely really disappointing to see her make big mistakes in her programs here, because she is also has like beautiful skating qualities. She's like very soft and lyrical and gentle with her skating as well. And her jumps, when she lands, she has the difficulty. So she really let this opportunity go. And it's a huge bummer because she was on the podium at Europeans, and I thought she skated really well at Worlds last year and everything. So disappointing for sure.
Tough, and tough for my Yelim Kim. I have loved her short program all season, and you sort of have seen where she started much stronger in the beginning. It's sort of been a slow descent as the season has gone on. That was a tough watch. And I'm curious to get your take. We have talked about sometimes the Korean Federation, it seems that their mantra is, if we send our skaters to 8 million competitions, they will improve. So I feel in the past, often it looks like the Korean skaters can often enter a competition already exhausted because they've done 300 competitions in between, you know, the 2 that everyone else is doing. Do you enjoy her skate? How do you see her moving forward from this?
I was really bummed out that Yelim didn't skate well. She really bombed her programs here.
Yeah.
And she had such a huge opportunity to be on the podium. And yeah, it stinks, but I think that she just needs to kind of like move on, close this chapter, and like look into next season. Because like other than this Worlds, like she's been skating well and like making the final, and she's like podiuming and just she's been doing well all season, other than mistakes here and there. So I hope that she can take it as just like, okay, this just was not a good experience. We're gonna close that door.
Yeah.
But I just think that her style is like she's so strong and she's so fast and her jumps are huge. So she is one of my favorite skaters right now for sure. And I think like her being able to have soft lyrical programs, I think at the beginning of the season, like some people didn't love her programs, and they just like didn't find them to suit that like athleticism that she brings. But she's really proven all season that she has these like really beautiful soft qualities to her, that can complement, in fact, the speed and power she has. So I'm really happy that she's like a skater that brings Innebauers in. I love her Innebauers so much. She has just so much potential. So I really hope she doesn't mentally like hold on to this competition, and she really just needs to move on.
Yeah.
I'm curious what will happen with Rinka Watanabe. I mean, she was the best skater in September and October of this season, and it's continually go down. We did see the triple axel in the warm-up, but she really bombed as well at this competition. What do you think about the Russian ladies? Have you followed them at all that season? Do you expect to see them next season? I mean, we saw Eteri, Sergei Dudikov, Daniil Gleikenhaus here with Daniil Grassel and the Georgians. Do you expect to see the Russian ladies back? I know that it's being determined kind of over the next couple of weeks.
I haven't really been watching any of the Russian like Grand Prix or like the Russian versions of skating events this season. I've just been way too busy with our own world standings. But I have seen like bits and pieces, especially on like social media and YouTube, of skaters. And I think like, you know, the younger skaters that I saw on the junior circuit, they are like really coming up and challenging, and that's no surprise because that's kind of the recipe for Russian skating. And some of the older skaters are going through puberty and they're having a harder time technically, and the technique that they have doesn't quite hold up necessarily in some moments. Like you can just see that there's a little bit of lack of quality from when they were younger. That's also natural in a growth phase, so we'll see in a few years if it can still hold up. But overall, I haven't really been watching them. I do wonder what it will be like with them returning. I think at the beginning of the season, it was really weird that there were no Russians in the Grand Prix. It felt kind of empty in that regard. But by this point, I've gotten really used to not having them in the scene, and like Worlds still felt like very competitive and very like a lot more equal in terms of everybody doing the same content. We only had 2 girls trying triple axels in the world event, and they both missed them and ended up being like really low. So I personally prefer having everybody have like that technical standard, because we see more like equalness and quality of elements that way. But it's really hard. It's hard to say what's going to happen, but I hope that the ISU, if they do return to competition, I hope the ISU like keeps the standard of quality more like this season, rather than propping up girls who try like hard development, still miss, and still end up on the podium.
No, you said you didn't see the Russian Grand Prix, but did you see Elena Radianova at the show program competition running around to Shakira? Like, did you see that?
I didn't. I haven't seen the actual program, but I've seen like things come up on Instagram of little clips, and honestly, it looks like they're just having a lot of fun. So more power to them. Yeah.
Would you compete in a professional competition, like if a pro worlds existed? Like, would you?
Absolutely. I think that would be so fun. I've had like other people talk to me about this. It would be so fun.
Your skating looks better this year than it's gotten improved. Like, what are you doing? Are you working out more off? Like, what's happening? Yeah.
I honestly have just been coming in to skate for fun a few times a week. If I'm in town, I'm out of town a lot, but when I do, I get to skate with Jeremy Abbott and Brian Boitano in San Francisco, and it's just so fun to have that energy. Like I have Brian in one side being like, yeah, you should go try this jump. I'm like, Brian, I haven't jumped in like 2 years. And he's like, yeah, you got it. No worries. And then you have Jeremy like doing all this like gorgeous choreography, relearning programs, getting ready for you know, different shows. And it is really inspiring to just be in that kind of vibe and help push my own skating with like feeling really like beautiful with stretches on the ice and like relearning my own programs for fun and like feeling how I can improve, because I really was so young when I was competing and I felt so old and so mature and so, you know, amazing and what I could do. But I feel the difference now that I'm older in terms of like my emotion on the ice and my ability to kind of connect with music and connect with movement. And yeah, I've been having a lot of fun just skating.
Double axel, triple toe. What other triples are you doing these days?
I like for fun, I'll pull out. I love doing triple loop. That's my jump I like to do. I was playing around with sow cows and whatnot recently, but yeah, I feel like for the most part, I have from double axel through triple loop. That's like pretty easy for me. Flips and lutzes, I don't really ever do anymore because it just, with my injury when I had it when I was 17, it was from the taps on those jumps. So I really just have put those away. Not my favorite to do. I've always been more of an edge jumper than a tap jumper though. So that's like not really a surprise for comfort levels for me.
How many twizzles can you do in a row? Like what is the record that you have done for yourself?
I love twizzles. I work on my twizzles every day. I think I've done probably like at least like 40 turns in a row. I don't know if I've done more than that. Like consistently, I could do like 25, like, and just like go out. But if I had to hold it for a long time, I could probably hold it for around 40.
You do be like Lucinda Rue and call the Guinness Book of World Records and have them count it.
Well, if they ever have a twizzle competition, I will enter for sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Oh, Polina, what was your favorite moment of the World Championships?
Ooh, favorite moment. I got to think about multiple events now.
Women, for the women. Yeah.
Honestly, I'd say my favorite moment was probably Chae-yeon Kim's free skate, just because it was like excellently done, and I saw like the emotion in her face after she landed her last jump and like ending the program. And she's been so like stoic all season, like through the Junior Grand Prix. She's competed so many times, clean programs all season until Four Continents and Worlds, and so to kind of see her feel really happy, like the season has ended. She skated well in the free skate. That was definitely my favorite moment.
I'm going to say Haein Lee, because I always like a surprise moment. And now that the roster is different of athletes, it's been exciting because you don't know what's going to happen. It seems less predetermined going into an event who will medal. So to sort of have this big surprise moment, back-to-back nice programs, that was the moment for me.
I love Haein Lee here. I also think watching Kaori has been so stressful this season. She has been up and down, and we have felt her anxiety. So when she did that short program, I felt very relieved for her. So we want to know what your favorite moment was of the women's event at the World Championships. So leave a comment below. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.